Shoutouts. This is Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
And you're listening to the Diesel Performance Podcast. Guys, we got a great show put together for you today. Chris, another UCC competitor that I think is going to make some waves regardless of results.
I mean, he gave us the blueprint to success. I don't want to ruin any little things here that Jacob Riordan said in his interview. I'm just really excited to see what he brings and how he executes his plan.
Absolutely. I think
it's going to be a show.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I think it's going to be one of those that you're going to want to keep an eye on Jacob Riordan. No question. Stick around for the show. You're going to hear why. This week over at Calibrated Power, Duramax Tuner Chris, I accidentally said last week was people's last chance to get the
this week's the last
special.
Chance.
But for real, this week
yep.
It's done this month. There will be no tuning sale going on come next month.
We're doing $100 off switch on the fly tuning, whether you do that on EasyLink or EFI Live. Another thing, Paul, that I kind of want to mention is ag tuning is becoming more and more in demand.
We're in the season.
There's no lie. Last year with COVID, a lot of the ag support was a little questionable because a lot of farmers didn't know what was going to go on.
Sure.
And the aftermath of that is this year because now it's a twofold. So been super, super busy with tractor stuff and some semi stuff as well. So, if you guys have any questions or have any interest, feel free to give a shout over at the shop and, we'll be able to help. Ask for me. I'll be more than happy to help as well.
Absolutely. Good call. It's ag season. The temperature's breaking. That also means that we have a lot of maintenance issues and troubleshooting issues to talk about. Of course, we're going to have our two experts on the show today. Super Tech Jeremy Garnett will be following us later. That's jgarnett00 on Instagram. Make sure you go follow him.
There you go.
Ton of shop work. You can see some really cool, actual mechanic shots of stuff he works on throughout the day.
Jeremy's kind of our superstar in the shop. We chose him to be on the show for a certain reason, but he gets a lot of the jobs that are a little bit more meticulous, I guess you would say. He's also led some what's the word I'm looking for? He's led some teasers as well, just on some future builds that we have in the shop. One of the new upcoming ones that are super, super I'm excited about is we have a 2003 Hummer that got dropped off to us from one of our awesome customers. And we're going to be doing an 800 wheel horsepower LBZ build.
Yeah.
So this is a huge task at hand. Jeremy was one of the all-stars to head our own shop conversion, which was a little bit of an older Hummer. So, a couple of differences just in the chassis and some of the stuff there that, for the swap itself. But this one's super, super cool. So we're really, really excited. And the owner of the Hummer, he owns a fairly big wheel tire company. I'm sure a lot of our listeners have heard about that, heard of the company in the past, which we'll get into further. So it's going to be used for some promotional video and stuff like that. So I know Jeremy's super excited to kind of dive into it, and he'll do a great job with it. So
absolutely. And guys, make sure you stick around for those Super Tech segments. Jeremy's going to be giving us a week-by-week update, just telling us a little bit about what he's touched on that project all the way throughout it, so you can kind of follow along with the build at home as well. And then don't forget, we're also going to have some troubleshooting on the show, give you guys some real-world practical diesel performance troubleshooting that our team deals with here over at Calibrated Power, home of DuramaxTuner.com. But Chris, let's not dick around anymore. Let's get right to it, man. I know everyone's going to love hearing from Jacob.
Absolutely.
Jacob, how the hell are you?
Doing great. How about you guys?
Man, we're preparing just like you, just in different ways,
That's it.
Couple weeks, man. UCC's coming.
Yeah. Does anybody know the day count? I don't know if it'll matter by the time this broadcasts, but
yeah, I mean, we got to be.
It's getting in the 30s.
Yeah, it has to be soon.
How do you feel about
counting? I mean, we're like 6 weeks behind. I stopped counting when I figured out we were 6 weeks behind.
That buys time.
And I know by May 15th-ish, we plan on leaving Idaho to start making our way over to Indiana. So hopefully we can leave in that time frame.
I love that.
So, let's dive into this. Why UCC 2021? What made you jump in and go to compete?
It's so funny, just the whole thing with all this. UCC was never really a thing that I even thought would happen. I put my truck together a couple years ago and did a built motor with a small fuel and air setup, and I just wanted way too much out of it. But one of my best friends' name is Paul.
And he's a terrible influence.
Great name. I already like the guy.
Right?
Sounds like a stand-up dude.
Terrible influence. I've never met a great Paul, let me tell you.
Whoa.
One of the worst influences. I was actually down
Our
in
Paul's
Utah,
the same way.
helping him out at his shop, and I was down there for a couple of weeks because things were a little slow up here. So I'm laying downstairs on this air mattress, and I get a text message from him upstairs, and it's this triple kit for an LB7. And he was like, yo, we need to put this on your truck. I'm like, I don't have any more money because I just put my truck together. And he was like, don't worry about it. I'll get the kit for you. And when you sell all your old stuff, just pay me as it sells. And I'm like, I really don't like this whole owing thing, but triples? Like, what could possibly go wrong? So we drove up to southern Idaho from Salt Lake. We bought the triple kit real late at night, came back, we slammed it on the truck, and then they canceled the last event of the season, which was Custom Autos event. They canceled the day of. So I drove the truck home with triples, hood stacks, the whole nine from Salt Lake City back to Coeur d'Alene, basically kind of in the middle of winter.
Oh, wow.
And man, let me tell you, I basically just smelt exhaust the entire time. But
high on number two, man.
We never had a UCC truck. All of our friends and all that. I mean, everyone had some, decently rowdy setups, but nothing too crazy. So Paul built the trans and put all the billet goodies in it and everything that we would need. And another buddy was like, hey, man, you should see if you could go to UCC. And it's like, okay, we've hit the dyno a handful of times. All we've really done is dirt drags because that's what we have around here. And but yeah, I'm down to go to UCC. What's the worst that could happen? I mean, if you're a diesel truck owner, you're already retarded because the shit costs so much money.
Facts.
And once you start the rabbit hole, it's funny, you guys are laughing. I mean, I can't even laugh anymore because this is not funny.
No.
This is expensive.
No, I think we're all laughing because we've all been there at some capacity.
We've all felt that pain.
Right.
Yeah.
You're laughing now after the fact. I'm waiting to arrive there at whatever point I do.
Oh, you're just like delirious.
Yeah, absolutely. But the whole thing, I actually hit up Elmer, who works for Custom Auto. I'm sure you guys know Elmer, but I hit up Elmer because there was a few little birdies talking about there was some open UCC spots because the border's still closed. And I'm thinking, okay, well, we have an even rowdier setup this year than we did last year. I mean, what do we really have to lose? So I hit up James and Chris. I'm just like, hey, if you have a spot, I'm down. And he's like, there's a couple spots left and you need to pay right away. And I mean, at the current moment in time, I didn't have the entry money just laying around, because I'm trying to finish my truck. But like, hey, I got a credit card that's got some available credit on it. And I called up my buddies. I'm like, hey, you guys down to go to UCC? And everyone said, yeah. So, what do we have to lose with the way our industry's going, the things that have been taking place? I mean, this whole thing to me is to have fun. Yes, it's to go out and compete and represent, but you also got to think of everything that happens behind the scenes. The long nights, the throwing stuff across the shop, the wrong parts, you name it. There's just so much that goes into being able to make something like this happen when you have, me and another guy here, two other guys in Utah, another guy in Illinois. I have another buddy in Western Washington, and, nobody skipped a beat when I picked up the phone and said, hey, do you want to be a part of this? Do you want to go? I mean, everyone was absolutely, let's go, let's have fun. And to be honest with you, kind of, laugh and joke about the whole money thing and all that. But the reality of it is I can't take it with me when I go. And I mean, this whole thing is, like I said, it kind of circles back to everyone that's had some time into the truck of, wrenching or fixing issues or getting it places or getting it to where it is. Everybody plays a part. I mean, there's no way I could do this by myself. So that's kind of how the whole UCC thing came, really more as a joke to begin with. Just, hey, if we could go, great, sounds good. But it was kind of a pipe dream until it came time to pay the bill to pay the entry to get in. And it was like, okay, so we're actually going to do this. Like,
It's real. It's real.
Real. And then they launched which is just a little bit off topic, but they launched a West Coast race schedule this year. And so we actually have, you guys were talking something like 30 days or whatever the case may be. It's April 15th and April 24th. We have our first race in Sacramento, and I don't even have fuel in the truck yet, currently, as of right this moment.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
So for our listeners here, let's kind of switch gears a little bit. What's the rundown on the truck? What is the truck, and what's the setup, and what does that look like going into 2021?
So it's a 2002 Silverado LB7. It's got like 412,000 on the truck body and everything there. This setup for this year is a lot different than last year. So did a half fill block, ringed it, pistons, rods, stock crank, 100 cam from SoCal, and then ported and polished heads. All the valve train was from Manton. And then we got injectors from Flux. They're about 460s, so they're big. We got 2 Dynamite 12 mil pumps. And then we switched from 775s from last year. This year we are going to 2 78s and an 80 from PMT, which is the machining side of Danville. And then we got the Whirly Fab triple kit, and then Interstate Diesel built actually both of the transmissions. So we have the trans in the truck, and then we have the spare in case anything happens. But Paul's done a lot of the work. He's done all the transmission stuff for all of my trucks and all my customer stuff, but he's also helped a lot on getting the truck going, some of the parts set up. And so that's basically the gist of the setup. We got a little bit of nitrous going into it, and so it should be a good time. Should be a really good time.
I feel like you're giggling in the little nitrous. It's not a little nitrous.
We have a garden hose, right?
A couple.
Yeah, I figured with the garden hose injectors, we may as well garden hose some
the laughing gas
nitrous as well. Yeah, I mean, there may or may not be 2 bottles bolted down in the bed right now. So,
I mean, it sounds like a really, really rowdy setup. And one of the things we've seen is that guys who have experience with really, really big horsepowers, they tend to play around with the setup throughout UCC, changing up from a single setup to a triples or to twins or whatever you're going to do. Going on to the dyno seems to be that point where you want to throw everything you can at it. That's where if you have all of the nitrous on Earth, that's where you're going to use it. You're probably not going to see a ton of it in the other events, maybe a little bit of usage.
And we've been hearing recently with some of the interviewers that there's a strategy to being on the dyno.
That's right. As opposed to just flat footing.
Which would be my
right, of course. So Jacob, I want to ask about your strategy on the dyno. What are you thinking? Because it is a linchpin of this competition that you can be fast, you can be good at sled pulling, but man, you gotta not only make the power, but you gotta put the power down on the dyno to win this thing.
Absolutely. So the concrete guys just left this morning. I have a dyno showing up to my shop. allegedly the first week of May, the deadline's been pushed back. This is the third time. So I was hoping to actually be able to get the truck on the dyno before we went to Sacramento for our first race. I obviously don't think that's going to happen. We honestly just want a big number. I mean, I want to see what the setup can do. I want to see the biggest goal with this truck that I've been talking, with some of the guys on the team is, let's push this thing and see where our limits are going to be. But we want north of 2K on the dyno, and I will spray the balls off that thing to get there.
I felt that. I believe that.
I don't give a shit what it takes. If we need to add more nitrous, or I don't care what it is.
Like a third bottle. You'll add a third bottle.
Yeah, maybe a fourth bottle, or just however we can get the maximum amount possible into it. But that's really the big thing. I mean, a lot of these guys, I think, come in with this big strategy of, we want to do this, we want to do that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I want to have fun. And if we don't hit north of 2K, which would be insane, I would be very surprised if we didn't, but that's the biggest thing is we haven't really talked about a strategy. I mean, what our group of friends and our team, and we're the guys that last year for ATS, we left Salt Lake City at midnight and we arrived at ATS when the roller started going, and we drove all night. I mean, that's just why it's like that for us. I have no idea, but if we weren't showing up last minute, that wouldn't be our team.
So, we got an idea. Spray the balls off it on the dyno. But I know you said your main experience, or what you deal with mostly, is dirt drags. Do you have a lot of drag racing experience, just at a quarter mile or an eighth mile track?
On a track, no.
Okay.
On a track, no. People are gonna think that and everyone I've talked to so far, which is it's been a funny conversation, but everyone's like, have you hooked up to a sled before? Nope.
That's not that uncommon at this event. I know guys that have been competing in UCC for years, and the only sled hooks they've ever done are at UCC.
True.
So,
but hold on, Jacob, have you run a truck on the dyno?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So you have dyno driving experience.
Right.
I would assume you're a master at the tree doing the dirt drag stuff, so you have somewhat of an understanding.
Well, let's phrase that as a question. Are you good at the tree? Because I've dirt dragged and I'm not good at the tree.
You're not very good at driving.
Yeah, well, in forward, I'm good.
It all really depends. I would say half the time I'm good and half the time I'm just a straight up potato. There's really no other way to describe it. It's one of those things where, sometimes my reaction time's bam right there. But the other thing, too, is I have zero idea what kind of spool up we're going to be dealing with on this setup, because just with last year, and the only downfall for triples is getting staged.
Yeah.
The last year setup was extremely rowdy on the street. From the time the turbo's lit until the time you let out of it, it was a pedal fest, and it didn't matter what you did, didn't matter what tires I had on it, short of, a set of slicks, cheater slicks, stuff like that. But some of these, proxies or 420s, they usually hook pretty damn good on the street. But that's going to be the biggest thing of staging this year is I'm going to have zero time to get it figured out, because obviously we're running out of time, but it's an entirely different setup as far as spool up and all that goes. So dyno wise, I don't have any, doubts, issues, none of that. And I don't really have any doubts or issues throughout the whole thing, but dyno wise, I'm pretty damn confident in. The biggest issue we have is spinning on the rollers.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because what we've seen is two different things affect trucks massively over the Friday and Saturday events, which of course is drag racing. You got to qualify, and then you go through a bracket series, and then you will go over to the dyno on Saturday, and we usually don't see a ton of chassis swaps, right? Like there's not a lot of guys doing a ton to their suspension between those two events. Maybe stiffen it up a little bit for the dyno. At the very most, things like that. Strapping seems to be a big deal, especially this year. They're really putting an emphasis on how you strap the truck to the dyno. Others have already said it makes a difference, right? So having that experience of just even how to get it held down the right way is big. But tires, man, we know that tires are the one thing that probably are guaranteed to change on just about every truck through all three events. I would be surprised if anybody gets through two events on one set of tires. What is your plan on that? Like, have you looked around? Do you have experience with, we want really sticky tires, or, we want, something with like a medium all-terrain tread? Like, what has worked the best for you? What's your strategy there?
So I can't exactly, tell you how. I've been on a few dynos, and the latest thing that we came up with was about 20 psi in these proxies, and we had 4 straps in the front and 6 straps on the rear of the truck. And this is with, you got one guy jumping on the strap and you have one guy ratcheting to tighten the thing. That was the first time that we didn't spin. So it's going to be a little interesting. So the dyno that I ordered up, it actually has all these machined grooves in it to hopefully eliminate any sort of spin. So I'm going to play with a little bit of tire setup in the shop, which would be the only advantage I'll have, just for myself, versus before we've just sent it up there on the proxies and you get 18 guys to strap it down and it sticks or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Wow. And once you make a hit, you're heat soaked. So even if we get it strapped down we made 3 hits at ATS and the truck was hot. It was super hot, and it's super hot in that, geographic location. So we had one shot at it and we spun really bad. Didn't quite put out the number we wanted to, but that's going to kind of be the goal, is to I'll test out different wheels and tires, and whatever works the best on my dyno is likely what I'm going to strap down there on that dyno. But yeah, we have a set of slicks for dragging, and then we're going to go with some kind of AT tire for sled pulling. And I have 4 LB7s, so I have a few wheels and tires to choose from.
There you go.
Now, speaking of sled pulling, let's dive into that a little bit. You said you've never sled pulled. I assume you've at least talked to somebody about sled pulling, what to expect. What modifications do you plan on making to the truck for the sled pull?
So I've talked to quite a few people. We have this, we built up this custom, I guess, hitch, you could call it, that bolts onto the rear frame of the truck. But we're going to block the rear axle off so it can't move. And I'm going to be honest with you, we're really not going to go too crazy into how much we're going to modify the truck, because this will likely be the only time the truck even hits the sled. And we'll hook up to it. We'll see what happens and kind of learn from there what we can and can't do. But I've been talking to some people that are more just sled pull only. It's mostly what they do. And you're talking money that I've long spent on all the rest of the truck, that these guys are getting these things set up to take whatever they want to throw at it while it's hooked to the sled.
Yeah.
We've done some beefing up to make sure things are good, but we really haven't spent a whole lot of time into it, mostly because of how behind we are.
Well, this is the dance between UCC, right?
Yeah.
Because when you go out and build a sled pull truck, you know what your weight class is. Not only do you know what your weight limit is, but you also know where to put that weight.
Right.
So it's very obvious. It's very direct. It's very, I don't want to call it simplistic because there's a ton that goes into it, but I will. Then when you go drag racing, everything you just did is the opposite. You need to make the truck as light as you can. You need to shift the weight around to a different place. The power needs to come on differently. It's a totally different setup. So that's why I'm always kind of curious to hear, do you do just a weight box and a hitch and run it? I mean, do you spray the shit out of it? It's the last day at UCC. This is when you're there. You know, like, do you go all out and go all for nothing and give it all the spray?
And that's kind of been one of the things that's been being tossed around. And, you know, some guys bring up the point of, oh, well, sled pulling's the last day. And realistically, we have 6 more races after UCC. So, you know, throwing all the sauce at it's going to be on the dyno. I've seen what sleds do to trucks, and mostly because guys don't let out. I'm one of them. I'll be honest right now. So I've been working back and forth with Gabe over at SoCal Diesel, and we are more than likely going to try to put a spare motor together for this year. And it kind of ended up being able to trade a little bit of work for a little bit of work to get my dyno pit in the shop. So it kind of freed up a few little dollars. And, well, you guys know when a few little dollars get freed up, it's like, how can I buy my next really stupid purchase? We need another motor.
Chris.
Let's put a spare motor together.
Chris, I've heard you say this shit.
I have. So
it's funny because, like, a year and a half ago, a buddy of mine had some pistons for sale, and I'm like, oh, man, I need a set of forged pistons. So I buy them. I actually lost them. I found them a week ago, but I bought them, and they got moved in the shop about 18 times, and every time I clean up, I move them, and then I lose them. But anyways, I found them buried in the bottom of a tote, and so when I found them and put my eyes on them, I'm like, yo.
That just saved me $2,000.
Look, I found this lost set of forged pistons I've already spent money on.
Yep.
You know what that means? I have
them.
to have a motor to put them in. Right. No, I get that. That's total logic, Jacob. Perfect.
So,
absolutely. And so this other motor we're putting together, it's, I don't know, everyone says that it's rated for 1,000 horsepower. I would like to see 2,000 plus out of it, and it's either going to take it or it's going to window that bitch into the next dimension.
All right, Jacob. Serious question. Top 3 UCC 2021. You'll, of course, be in the top 3 podium. Who's going to be with you?
We're going to win, man. We always win.
Yeah,
you got to win no matter what. You just have to have that mentality that you're going to win, period.
Who are the other two? Who are the other 2 guys with you for number 2 and number 3?
I've looked at the roster, like, I don't know how many times, but if there's 2 other guys that are going for the first time, whoever they are, hopefully it's them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I do know what you're saying. I love every part of this interview today. That's,
oh my goodness.
Thing, man, like, all right, so you guys for a little loop. The way that I have supported my diesel addiction is I buy and sell. Are you guys ready for this?
Beanie
Subaru
Babies.
Outbacks, like the most lesbian car that you can get. I have made my living for the past 5 years selling Subaru Outbacks.
Like, are we talking like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, buy them, flip them, or as a profession you
At
sell
a dealership?
Outbacks?
Like, I'm talking, I have a 50-foot wedge, and I go anywhere from Seattle to Portland to southern Idaho, Salt Lake City, Montana. I have been all over this place buying cars. And let me tell you, the cars that I buy, they are like the bottom of the barrel. Like, these things are piles of shit. And let me tell you, polish a turd, man, we polish the hell out of these turds, and they have done me pretty damn well up until this point. But that's how I've gotten to where I am.
Jacob, who the hell are you?
I need you to right now mention your Instagram handle so everybody can go follow you right now.
All right, my Instagram handle for the shop is Speed Stop Inc. There is nothing posted on it yet because my truck isn't done, so I don't really give a shit about Instagram posts. My truck Instagram is Crayola Box LB7.
Crayola Box LB7. Literally all three of us are on our phones following you right now as we speak.
I found it.
All right.
Wow. That is a very pretty engine bay, Jacob.
Oh,
holy fuck. It's literally... You gotta be kidding me.
I always forget that you don't do any research before the show.
No, that is awesome.
Hey, the reactions are way better when you see it for the first time. It's so funny. The very first time that when I got the piping, it was all green and the truck's red. And I'm like, I'm driving around a Christmas tree with hood stacks and I couldn't take it. So I pulled all the stuff off and I went to the powder coater and I said, hey, make this all different colors. And then everyone started telling me like, oh, dude, you're gay. Oh, that kit's pieced together. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. And I'm like, listen, when you start paying for all of the modifications to my truck,
then you can talk shit.
Make it whatever color, whatever setup. I don't give a shit what you want to put in there. If you're paying for it, I don't care.
I have so rarely run into a situation where I just couldn't agree more. I dig this so much. All right, Jacob, you've been so much fun to talk to. I know all of our listeners are going to go follow your truck's Instagram and your shop's Instagram for sure. Who do you want to give a shout out to, man?
Oh man, there's a decent list of people, but the number one people that my family. They've been there since day one, and they too think that I'm retarded. They constantly do the back and forth of, maybe you should look into buying a house. And I get to drive my house, and I get to have fun in my house. They've been supportive since day one. My family, my nephews are actually going to be out at UCC with my mom. So I'm super stoked that maybe they'll, jump in and get a part of it, and maybe it'll be something they want to get into when they get a little bit older. But, man, the list of people, Dominic at Starlight, Paul at Interstate Diesel, Don and April at Flux, Josh down at Kryptonite. My best friend Mason, he's been, grinding with me nonstop. My girlfriend. It has been an all-out effort. My buddy Norman from Washington, Logan and Jake from Rev House. I could probably go on, and I'm sure someone will be like, hey, man, you didn't shout me out. But when you're this deep into this stuff and you get the amount of everyone tries to jump in and help and participate. Optilube has been Sean at Optilube has been absolutely incredible with getting all our trucks squared away with fluids and all that. Trevor at Manton. Like I said, when you get this deep into it, the list goes on and on for all the people that have jumped in and helped. But, my main core guys of my team, which is Paul, Dominic, Mason, Norman, and my buddy Bill. I mean, these guys have been through all the ups and downs of the, forget this. I want to quit. I want to be done. I'm over it. I can't, I'm tired of doing this. I'm tired of spinning my wheels. I'm tired of wrong parts. I'm tired of all this. And these guys every day are like, hey man, quit being a pussy and get your shit done. And it's like, how about you take a long walk off a short bridge, but all right, I'll get back to work. Everyone has the same common goal, but really my family and my friends and the people, that are close to me. I mean, they know who they are and they know how they've participated. And the last biggest thing that I'll say is this could not have been done by myself. No matter how much time I took, no matter how much money I had, this is a team effort. It's a team deal. Everybody's got to be firing on all cylinders. And that's how you make this stuff work, because the guy that can sit there and say, oh, yeah, I'll do it all myself, I can do it all myself, they're full of shit, man. It takes an army of people to make all this stuff happen.
No, absolutely.
That's awesome.
We're excited to see you, Jacob. I'm rooting for you, man. Like, I'm a believer.
Hey, While we're recording on this, I'm gonna call all three of you Paul as soon as I meet all three of you, and whatever happens from there, I'm willing to take the consequences.
I'm sure that these other two assholes in the room could never get a higher compliment.
Jeez.
Jacob, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Listeners, make sure you stick around. Next up, we got a killer segment coming from our super tech, Jeremy Garnett. He's going to give us another pro tip, and then, of course, we're going to be hearing a little bit more on troubleshooting, something to do with your diesel truck. All right, and now, guys, we are here with our super tech, Jeremy Garnett. Jeremy, how the hell are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm so happy to be here. We just got done talking about UCC or something UCC related because all we are talking about is UCC right now. But that's why I love this segment, because we get to talk about something that's like a little bit more grounded, right? Like usually you're not diving into triple turbo LB7s with 400% over injectors.
No, not this year anyways.
Right, it'll happen, but not right now. So hit me with it, man. What's the truck we're talking about today?
Got to put a motor in a Cummins this past week.
Oh, what year Cummins?
04.
An 04,
so
okay.
It's early.
Okay, early common rail.
Yep.
So we're just getting started where like they were really kind of pushing the envelope of technology and getting there. I like it.
This one
my psychic sense says our standards are like head gaskets, things along an overheating issue, but not always. So what was it? What were the symptoms that came in with?
This one came in overheating issue. Overheating issue under high boost. It was actually the gasket was blowing out on the number 6 cylinder. So you got to, pop, 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 pop under,
Oh, yeah.
And the best thing is it was a 6-speed manual. So, yeah.
Now, that's your blessing and your curse, because you could drive around the problem because you have a manual a lot easier. So you can avoid it, meaning you could stretch it out, which, hey, sure, that's great if you just need to limp it home. But some guys end up limping it along for months at a time before they come to get it fixed. How fucked was this one?
This one wasn't too bad. It actually passed the chemical test on the head gasket.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was just, again, under high boost. It was, on 5th gear, 5th, 6th gear, you're giving it full throttle, and you're pop, 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 and then, we get it back, and we diagnose it, dig into it, and we ended up putting a motor in this. That's the way we went on this truck.
Oh, really?
It was just the route we went. We decided to go with the customer, and he's like, let's not do gaskets. Let's put a motor in it.
Nice. Okay, built motor, stock motor?
It was just a stock motor, head studs, and stock fuel.
Nice. Okay. Just back together. What kind of problems or surprising things happened during this repair?
It was after. It was a pretty cool install. It went in nice and easy, manual. You want to pull the trans on it because it's easier.
Sure.
But got the truck running, test driving it, put good 25, 30 miles on it. Now I'm sitting on the side of the road.
What?
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell? Truck was perfect. Now I'm sitting on the side of the road. Fuel decided it just wanted to stay at 25K and didn't want to come down.
Oh, my God.
So
25K wide open, regulators unplugged.
No, everything was plugged in. We limp it back, actually. My first mistake is I didn't bring a scan tool with me.
Oh, no.
Because it was my second test drive. So my first test drive, I went out, checked everything. But my second test drive, I didn't bring a scan tool with me. So
you're right. You're all right.
But he did have a mechanical gauge on his A-pillar, so I was able to tell what was going on.
Sure.
But what I did is I unplugged the regulator, and then it actually just put it at full rail, and I was able to limp it back. It was only a mile away.
Okay.
Dug into it. Thought it was a bad regulator. Put a regulator in it. Hey, guess what? It wasn't the problem.
Oh.
But the thing is, I drove it. I started it up. It drove. Perfect. It did it again. It acted up again.
No shit.
Yeah. So again, we get it back, we diagnose it, and we figured it out that it was actually the fuel pressure sensor was bad.
The fuel pressure sensor. So how do you diagnose that? Because symptoms, like generally, like most of us understand, is that if you end up with wide open fuel pressure, that means you don't have any signal going to your regulator.
Right.
So that's like the most common. That's like why I could jump on that one, and like a good portion of the time you're probably going to figure out your issue. How do you go from that to the fuel pressure sensor?
Well, it's an early common rail, so it's like there's really only two things that can control fuel.
Right.
So
Okay.
you have your fuel regulator, and your actual fuel pressure sensor controls the regulator.
Right.
Because the pressure sensor regulates or tells you how much fuel to
Okay.
regulate. So I unplugged it. It didn't do anything. While I was looking at it with the scan tool, I was messing with it. I actually just I didn't believe that the system had 23K of pressure. So in it, well, I'm looking at the scan tool and I'm doing it. So I took a leap of faith and I cracked a line, and it didn't have no fuel pressure. So luckily enough, we had a fuel pressure sensor laying around and put it in, and it went right to 83 psi.
Oh my God, that's nice.
So
Awesome, man. All right, well, what's the pro tip for this segment?
okay, when you're looking at your meter and you're looking at voltage, watch the decimal point and a 5-volt reference. So you could have 5 volts or 0.5 volts.
Okay.
It got me on this one. Watch your decimal point on your voltmeter.
I love that. That's such an easy one to overlook,
Oh,
too,
my-
right? Because you glance down, you see a 5, and you're like, all right, so that's good. Move it, and then you're next. You got to hold those stupid picks
And
or
it's
alligator clamp it, and it's a pain in the ass. And you can't reach, and you're on a creeper, and you're like, meh, meh, meh.
I'm
Okay,
under the
good
hood.
move.
It's dark. It's
Yeah.
doing it by myself. Guys, I've been doing it for 20 years. Just watch the decimal point on your voltmeter.
That's such a good one. I love that. Well, all right, man. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, no problem. Have a good day, guys.
Guys, make sure you stick around. We're going to be doing some diesel diagnostics coming up next. All right, guys, I am here for our diesel diagnostics segment. Today, I have a new guest on, another superstar from our customer service team over at Calibrated Power Duramax Tuner, Mike Evans. Mike, how the hell are you?
I'm doing pretty great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for asking. Mike, this is your first time on the show, but definitely not new to customer service.
It is, yes.
So, Mike, you've worked in the automotive space for some time, came on to Duramax Tuner recently, and been picking it up really, really fast here, I think because you have a lot of kind of performance background.
Yeah, definitely.
So today, I was hoping you could help out one of our fans who came on to the Diesel podcast page and shot me a troubleshooting question. You want to give it a shot?
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
All right, man. So they came on and said, hey, I have an 06 LLY, and I'm looking at upgrading my intake. Which one should I buy? And they sent me a link to 2 different intakes that both were for LLYs. What is the first thing you would want to talk to this guy about?
So with the 06 LOIs is a little bit of a weird situation. GM had a lot of runoffs from the 05s. Actually, most of the components, if not all of them, are LBZ components. So you would really want to be looking at an LBZ intake. Everything from the intake to the injectors, the turbo is all LBZ. You just have the LOY VIN code.
So I always love this question, and we've run into this in the past too, where somebody goes through and they do like the VIN decoder, or they look up and they know like, oh, if you have 2 in this digit of your VIN, it's an LLY. There's some truth to that, and there's maybe very, very few like medium duty, like 4,500 trucks that might actually have some LLY components. An easy way to check this is go out and look at your ECM.
True.
I mean, an LLY ECM and an LBZ ECM look very, very different.
Yeah.
One has 2 plugs, one has 3. Right, so like,
can't argue that.
It's hard to not spot that difference. Some of the other stuff, like you know, hey, somebody like Mike might know. You jump under the hood, you could look at like, you know, you could look at the turbocharger if you really know what you're looking for. You could tell the difference. You could look at the intake, although you got to watch that because a lot of guys did LBZ intake upgrades on their LLYs.
Right.
So you got to kind of keep an eye out there. Keep an eye out there. The other one that's an obvious one is, do you have a 6-speed transmission? If you have a 6-speed transmission, you got an LBZ.
Yep.
If it's a 5-speed, you got an LLY. Just real nice and easy.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Mike. Well, hey, I definitely appreciate you coming down and helping out with an easy one here for your first time on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Guys, make sure you stick around. Chris and I are going to go through and kind of talk a little bit about everything we discussed in today's episode and give you a little sneak peek of what's coming next week.
Engineered for use with both gas and diesel engines, the XDP X Factor is the perfect choice to restore lost power in your engine. This unique blend is a 100% synthetic friction reducer that's specially formulated to decrease engine wear, improve fuel economy, and reduce the oil operating temperature of your diesel engine. On 6.0-liter Power Stroke engines, X Factor eliminates the common stiction issues and helps restore failing HEUI injectors. X Factor is more than just an engine oil additive. Use in your power steering system or add it to your gear oil for enhanced protection. X Factor is safe for use with both synthetic and conventional oils, and one 8-ounce bottle treats up to 5 quarts of oil. To find out more about the XDP X Factor High Performance Oil Additive, head over to xdp.com or find a local dealer near you.
Chris, people have been hearing us talk about Exergy Performance, well, since the start of the show.
Right, of course. They've been a believer since the inception, to say the least.
I know I just recently talked to Randy Harkema over there. Guys, of course, you recognize him from our snake oil or not fuel additive episode. He's one of the guys at Exergy that we rely on for technical expertise. And I thought it was really cool. I was just talking to him about going to UCC.
Okay.
You remember the booth that they bring to UCC every year?
Yeah, I remember 2019. They do this really cool engine stand with a Cummins with their standalone with a throttle, a hand throttle, and you can, be part of the engine operating. They start it, you can rev it and all that cool stuff. And I think it's really cool because it gives you that hands-on experience to say, hey, here's Exergy's fuel system, here's Exergy standalone, Bosch standalone, here's everything working.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you can't forget it once you've seen it.
I didn't push too hard to ask all the details because I like to walk around UCC and kind of be surprised by what I'm going to see. But I will just say that if you're going to UCC this year, make sure you go swing by the Exergy Performance booth. You're definitely going to want to check out what they have.
Oh, man, that's exciting.
Chris, you know WC Fab and WC Fab powder coating. It's going to be one of those places that if you've never heard of them and you go check out their booth at UCC, or if you go to their shop and kind of hang out and see even just the foyer, like what the waiting room, you're going to be wildly impressed.
It's tough because you don't know if someone were to tell me, hey, they do all these crazy powder coat colors, they do compound turbo kits, triple turbo kits, intercooler piping kits, whatever. I am a very simplistic individual, so I have a basic thought process or picturing in my head of what's going on. And if you see their work in person, they're very meticulous with their fabrication. The welding is superb. But their coloring options that they have from their in-house powder coating service is second to none. There's like 400 colors that they keep in stock.
Yeah.
All of their signature colors are, they're the most popular for a reason. They stick out the most. And I mean, Paul, man, over the years being at Calibrated Power, we have seen so many WC Fab trucks come and go, being on the dyno, things like that. And, I remember when I first started, it was exciting to see a 700, 800, or 1,000 wheel horse truck. And you just know if a truck's coming from WC Fab here, it's going to make big power. I normally just get excited for what kind of color schemes under the hood of the truck. But, you're going to get what you pay for. They offer a really good quality product, and they have a really good support staff. They're going to stand behind what they do. And I think that goes a long way, especially this day and age in this industry.
Absolutely. All right, guys. I think this has been one of the most fun shows we've done recently.
Just spray the balls off of it, right? Like, I'm not going to lie, and I've said this before in other recordings, UCC 2021 is going to be a little different than prior UCCs.
Yep.
And I think the blueprint of what UCC was back in 17, 18, 19 has shifted gears slightly. And instead of looking at this as like, oh, it's going to be dull, like these guys, not calling them no names, but they're not the big shop names in the industry. I think a lot of guys are hungry. A lot of guys are wanting to prove themselves, make a name for themselves, and it's kind of what the 2010, 2012s, 2015s were all over again. I'm really excited. I think it's going to shake a lot of things up. It's going to create a whole new interest going into the UCC.
I think you're right, Chris. And I think one of the interesting dynamics we're seeing here is that UCC literally started from a Facebook argument.
Yeah.
Like that was the actual origin story of how all of this spun together.
My truck's going to make more power than your truck. My dad's going to beat up your dad, right? Like, just shows the maturity level in the diesel industry, to say the least.
And what's been wild is to see it spiral, and it kind of followed this arc where it was all big shops who had a lot of money to throw at their trucks, and those shops came out there and they competed in a way that nobody ever expected. They put down numbers and set records and pushed each other in a way that nobody could have ever thought possible. And then now what's happened is those shops are maturing, and those people who are doing that are looking at things in a little bit different of a way, and they're saying, hey, you know what, I've been there, I've taken my shots, I've done well, maybe I'll come back in the future and do a comeback run, but for right now, let's support some of the other people out there. Let's see where this can go. And all of a sudden, we have small shops, we have privateers, we have guys who are doing this just strictly out of passion and putting themselves through it. And that's one of the things I'm really excited about.
I think you hit the nail on the head. One thing I want to touch on is the UCC is not an old event, right? The first year was 2017.
Yeah,
right?
that
2017.
Sounds right. Sure.
And I think about my early years getting involved in diesel and going to the old TS show or going to Scheide's Diesel.
Yeah.
TS and Scheide's were the two biggest events of the year. Okay, TS was in the beginning of summer. Scheide's was one of the last events of the year, and to look at how big UCC is in comparison to TS is no longer a thing. Scheide's is still going on. It's still an awesome event.
Right.
But it just shows, the passion that guys have and what the promoters at UCC have been able to do in such a few short years to make this the biggest event of the year. Everyone talks about it. Guys, if you haven't gone to a show, you got to go to the show.
Yeah.
It's definitely an enjoyable time. It's an experience to have.
Absolutely. Well, I don't think I could have said it any better myself. Guys, thank you so much for listening. This has been Paul Wilson.
And Chris Hemke.
Have a great night.
I would like to see 2,000 plus out of it, and it's either going to take it or it's going to window that bitch into the next dimension.